Hello everyone, it is Tanner from SuperNOVA, and today we are looking at the concept of power to liquid, also known as PTL. The ideas in this video will be very much related to the Sustainable Aviation Fuel workshop and content that we developed for SuperNOVA.
SAF, or Sustainable Aviation Fuel, is a type of fuel that can be put into planes that is made from renewable feedstocks. It is an alternative to traditional jet fuel that can reduce emissions from airplanes. Sustainable aviation fuel is made from organic materials like corn grain, oil seeds, algae, and other fats, oils, and greases. In the United States, there is an estimated 1 billion tons of biomass produced each year. This means that roughly 50 to 60 billion gallons of biofuels can be produced, of which one of them can be sustainable aviation fuel. Sustainable aviation fuel is produced through a process called hydrodeoxygenation. Essentially, this process removes the oxygen molecule from the renewable raw material and leaves the hydrocarbons in place. During the hydrodeoxygenation, other unwanted materials are also removed, such as sulfur or nitrogen. After this process, the hydrocarbons that are left are isomerized to where this process will fine-tune and balance the fuel so that it can be used in planes. Using SAF versus traditional aviation fuels currently allows for a greener and more environmentally friendly method of air transportation. Using SAF can reduce carbon emissions from the air transport industry by 70%. SAF also produces 90% less particles than typical aviation fuels and eliminates the emissions of sulfur. It's important to move to SAF because we need to reduce our carbon footprint. SAF is a great way to reduce the carbon footprint, as it is estimated by 2050 that 8 billion people will be using air transportation to get around the world. It is also the goal for the aviation industry to be net zero for carbon emissions by 2050. The aviation industry typically produces around 1 billion tons of CO2 per year.
Power to liquid, again also known as PTL, is a type of sustainable aviation fuel created from synthetically produced liquid hydrocarbons. The main resources used to produce PTL are water and carbon dioxide, while the key source of energy for the process is renewable electricity. The main objective here is to look at how PTL is created. So let's jump right in on it, and we're going to focus mainly on three general steps that occur one after the other when creating PTL. So the first step is renewable energy powers electrolyzers to produce green hydrogen. So what is renewable energy? Well, as mentioned in previous videos, renewable energy is energy created from a source that can replenish itself faster than it's depleted. Renewable resources come from a variety of sources, such as from the sun, from wind, and from water. Due to a nuclear fusion process continually occurring within the core of our sun, the sun continuously releases energy. We harness this energy using solar panels. There are two main types of solar panels, but the ones you would be familiar with when you recognize a solar panel is the technology called photovoltaics. When the sun emits solar radiation, the energy from the sunlight shines on the panels, creating an electric charge that moves responding to an electric field within the cell, producing a flow of electricity. Have you ever stopped and thought about what is wind? Where does it come from? Well, wind is formed by the difference in pressure created by a difference of temperature in the Earth's atmosphere. The energy wind creates can then be harnessed through wind turbines. The wind spins the blades of the turbines, producing mechanical power that spins a generator and in turn creates electricity. Water is also a very important renewable resource. How is it renewable? Well, look of the water cycle. Now, how do we harness energy from water? Many ways, really, particularly through hydropower. Dams are built, diverting the flow of water to convert mechanical energy, again, into electricity. But we can take water and turn it into another powerful resource, hydrogen gas. No matter the choice of renewable energy, green hydrogen must be produced. In water, this can be accomplished through electrolysis, which is the process that splits H2O, water, into its two components, hydrogen and oxygen, within a unit called an electrolyzer. There are three types of electrolyzers used for hydrogen production. There are the alkaline electrolyzer, there are proton exchange membrane electrolyzers, also PEM for short, and solid oxide electrolyzer, SOE for short. For the ACES hydrogen fuel cell car workshop done with our grades 3 and 4, we use a PEM. For the alkaline electrolyzer, you need an alkaline metal, meaning a metal that is higher than 7 on the pH scale. The operation of an alkaline electrolyzer involves the transport of the hydroxide ion, OH negative, through an electrolyte from the positive terminal, the cathode, to the negative terminal, the anode, with hydrogen generated on the cathode side. The alkaline electrolysis can produce hydrogen gas with a lower purity, but it can do so at lower cost and at higher current densities than its competition. For the solid oxide electrolyzer, first we're going to talk about steam. So basically we have water vapor going into a special sponge-like area called the porous cathode. When we add some voltage, it's like flipping a switch, and then something really awesome happens. The steam transforms into two cool things. One is hydrogen gas, and the other is oxygen ions, kind of like special particles. The hydrogen gas rises up through the cathode, and we collect it as a useful fuel. Meanwhile, the oxygen ions take a journey through a dense pathway called the electrolyte, ensuring they go in just one direction. Now, at a special spot called the electrolyte anode interface, the oxygen ions get transformed into oxygen gas, and we gather it up too. The key is to make sure the cozy cathode and the electrolyte pathways act like traffic guards, preventing the hydrogen and oxygen from mixing and causing trouble. It's like keeping them in their own zones. So overall, we use electricity to turn water vapor into hydrogen and oxygen, and we're careful to keep them on their separate paths for some really cool benefits. This process is similar to the PEM, but one of the main differences is the solid oxide electrolyzers operate at very high temperatures for the solid oxide membrane to function properly. We're talking about roughly 700 to 800 degrees Celsius, while a polymer electrolyte membrane operates at a very lower temperature, 70 to 90 degrees Celsius. We need these processes because right now, roughly 1 kilogram of jet fuel in an aircraft engine produces 3.16 kilograms of carbon dioxide through combustion. Although this volume released per flight is based on various factors, including efficiency and maintenance, cargo, passengers, weather, and plane type. But altogether, we know that planes do unfortunately release a large amount of carbon dioxide, polluting the atmosphere. The next step in the process to create power to liquid involves the capture of carbon dioxide. If you watched the first Atlantic Clean Energy Stewards video, we talked about steam methane reformation for carbon capture. Well, an ideal process for carbon capture when you are in aviation is called direct air carbon capture. This process occurs when CO2 is directly taken from the atmosphere and is converted into a carbon feedstock. The process of producing PTL revolves around the capture and storage of CO2. Indeed, recapturing the CO2 released during combustion and combining it with hydrogen closes the loop because the CO2 that was initially released is reused to create fuel. And because of this, PTL's well-to-wheel Emissions, which is a crucial metric used to compare the effectiveness of various solutions with respect to greenhouse gas emissions, can be 90% less than that of fossil fuels. Carbon feedstocks are synthesized with green hydrogen in the overall last step. This is via processes to generate liquid hydrocarbons, which are then converted to produce a synthetic equivalent to kerosene.
To discuss hydrocarbon synthesis, first you need to understand what a hydrocarbon is. Well, let's look at the name. A hydrocarbon comes from two organic compounds, so two compounds natural to the earth. They are hydrogen and carbon. So a popular hydrocarbon is a primary component of natural gas, and that is CH4, also known as methane. Now, looking at hydrocarbon synthesis is the generation of hydrocarbon molecules from other molecules containing only hydrogen and carbon. So how does this happen? Well, for power to liquid, hydrogen is produced by water electrolysis and converted with carbon oxides, such as carbon dioxide. This creates liquid hydrocarbons.
Now let's ask, where did this technology come from? Well, in 1923, chemists Franz Fischer and Hans Tropsch decided to use an unconventional method to transform coal into a new synthetic fuel, a process first devised in Germany in 1913. They tested an indirect method of liquefying coal in which solid coal is first converted into a gas. This is done at temperatures of 150 to 300 degrees Celsius. Metal catalysts are introduced to initiate a series of chemical reactions that result in liquid hydrocarbons, or a raw liquid form of carbon monoxide combined with a hydrocarbon or water gas. This technique was so successful that coal-rich Germany employed it to manufacture a replacement fuel for traditional fossil-based petroleum during World War II. In actuality, Fischer and Tropsch coal liquefaction technology produced 92% of Germany's air fuel and more than 50% of its petroleum supply in the 1940s. After a century, the Fischer-Tropsch processing is still one of the primary ASTM approved processes for manufacturing SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. This form of SAF is now known as PTL, and it has superior combustion qualities that could assist in cutting emissions in a variety of industries, including aviation. One of the primary benefits of P2L is that it can be transported and dispersed using existing fossil fuel infrastructure, such as pipelines and filling stations. Furthermore, according to current jet fuel standards, combining P2L with ordinary kerosene is already possible up to 50%. However, today's P2L is manufactured at a relatively high cost and on a small scale. This is predicted to change when the green hydrogen ecosystem expands globally. Experts believe that P2L will be ready for widespread use between 2025 and 2030.
Be sure to stay on the lookout for more sustainable aviation fuel news around the world. Virgin Atlantic just flew in November of 2023 the world's first 100% sustainable aviation fuel flight. This took place from London at Heathrow Airport to the JFK Airport in New York City. Thank you for watching our video on Power to Liquid. Check out SuperNOVA's website for more clean fuel content and other great STEM programs.